Good morning. Welcome back to the shop. I want to do a quick little video this morning while everyone's sleeping. It's a nice cold morning in New England. I know some of you have been kind of following along with our new Norwood HD36. Got my Norwood hat on. Or the wife's Norwood hat. They only sent us one, so this one's going to be hers. But the title of the video is going to be, I got a new sawmill. And what do I do now? Because I know a lot of people are going to go through this. We thought we planned out how this was all going to go. And I want to talk to you about a few things, hopefully to help you out, maybe head off some of the problems at the pass. I think we'll start up front here on the property, walk out back to the mill. I got to take the cover off it. It's going to be a milling day. It's beautiful out. Cold this morning. Temperature's less than half what it was yesterday. It was 20 when I got up. It was almost 60 yesterday. But we're going to start up here and walk out back. You know, you sat down and you made a promise and you said how great things were going to be, and we're going to spend a bunch of money depending on which mill you decided to get into, and everything's going to be great. We're going to cut wood and people are going to want it, and it's going to be a business and we're going to make money, and the whole 9 yards, which is, you know, can be true. Sawmilling's a very primal thing, and it certainly is something that people need, and if you handle it the right way, certainly can make a lot of money at it if that's what you want to do. But this is going to apply if that's not what you want to do too, if you're just going to saw for yourself around your homestead or wherever. But we're going to start up front here and then we'll walk out back. So once upon a time, this was our driveway. This was all woods over here. I cleared the spot out some time ago. I had gotten big into chainsaw milling. I started out because I'm a sawyer and a joiner and wanted to just saw lumber for myself for our woodworking business. And that business grew very, very quickly. People found out that I had this mill, and down on Cape Cod it wasn't very common. People started calling me, asking me to mill stuff for them. And that grew really, really fast into its own business. So we started cutting wood for other people, and I started milling slabs, and this is where all the tree guys were dropping stuff off. They would just leave stuff out here for me, and I would saw it right out here. Actually, in the beginning, I had logs out here, you know, sawhorses, the whole 9 yards. I was milling right out here by the street. People were, you know, constantly walking by. We live pretty close to the ocean. This is kind of a summer community. It's a very small village, North Falmouth, Massachusetts. The water's right down the street here, and all these summer houses fill up. And there's people walking by nonstop, your families and everything on vacation or whatever. And people would just come over and watch and hang out and talk, and it turned into quite a good little business. For a few years, all I did was sell wood, and it was really good. But now, COVID hit, and people started asking us to build stuff with our wood for them, because people fled the cities and came down here and lived full time, because they kind of perceived that they could walk around down here, and there was, you know, it's more of an outdoorsy area than than an urban area. So people came down to all their summer houses and stayed here for a couple of years, and they wanted to fix them up. And it's been nonstop work for me, building like my neighbor Tommy's fence over there. My neighbor's a pretty talented contractor. He built that house. But like that fence over there, you know, people would say, hey, can you put in a custom fence for me, or an outdoor shower, or a 3-season cottage, or whatever, or your slab outdoor barbecue area, and it's been nonstop for 3 years for me. I've been working crazy. But the tree guys come here, they drop logs off, and here we get this big pile of logs. We get some beautiful pitch pine here, which is very similar to Douglas fir, very red in the center, very, very hard pine. You can see this, it's bad view, but the center of that log's very, very red like Douglas fir. Got some oak down here, there's some red oak. Actually, I've already got that contracted out for trailer bunks, 14-foot long, 10 by 3.5 trailer bunks for a customer. That's what that'll get milled out. We got some arborvitae in there and some red cedar. There's some red pine down in the bottom, really nice tight grain red pine. I'm thinking about using that for flooring in my saw shop that's up and coming, but that's going to be talked about as we get out back. So I just actually cleared out this spot in the woods here so I could put my trailer down in the woods, because my trailer was parked up here. But yeah, so what do you get your sawmill, and what do you do now? I could tell you the biggest thing, and we kind of planned this out as well as we could. The biggest thing that you need to think about if you got a sawmill coming is how you're going to put logs on it. So we had decided once upon a time that we wanted to buy a sawmill, and we went on a search for a machine. We bought that Bobcat T650 from a customer that we work for. Got a really decent deal on it with 1,200 hours. I know it looks older because he took all the decals off it and had his own decals on it, but it's a beautiful machine. It's really nice and solid. It's got the Kubota in it, the pre-Gen 2 series Bobcat, foot controls, AC heat, the whole 9 yards. Nice machine. It'll pick up, you know, somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 pounds. You know, it can pick up anything that we have here, regardless of size. We picked up massive logs with that. See, we got a pretty big one up on the mill there. But that's the first thing that you need to think about, is how am I going to get logs on my sawmill if I get a sawmill? That's not an easy thing. And if you think that you're going to do it by hand, you're going to be disappointed. So we bought the machine first. Long before the sawmill. It's been great for us and moving things around and working around the yard and so on and so forth. It's a little overkill, but not now. Not now that we have the sawmill, it's not overkill. In the beginning it was, when I was just chainsaw milling. You can see some of the slabs that I still have left over there. It's all maple over there. That's been air drying for about almost 3 years now. It's all nice and dry. But this whole area here used to just be slabs sitting out, and people would come to the house and buy slabs. Then when we had the sawmill coming, I had to figure out what this was all going to look like. And right where that Bobcat's sitting is going to be my saw shop. I'm going to build a timber frame there. North Falmouth saw shop. I'm going to sharpen chains and fix saws and so on and so forth. But I needed room for that, so we figured out where that was going to be first. The mill's in a temporary location now. It's actually going to be moved afterwards. I got to do some clearing behind that as I process through our firewood. That leads you to number 2. Where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put your sawmill? You need to have access to it from the sides. We have our septic tank is sitting kind of up on that hill, and it runs down through here into leach fields that are sitting right under here. So that wipes out a big portion of our backyard as far as what we can do here. So we kind of have to go that way. Now we have a fairly good sized property here, so we have room, but if you don't, where are you going to put it? Where are you going to put these logs? How are you going to get in and out? where are you going to put the mill? So our temporary location here got small really fast. You know, we just got this thing, we just got it fired up, we just started milling with it. And the area gets small really fast. Have some more coffee. Which leads us to kind of the next thing. So you figure out a place for your mill. You set it down, you get it all set up, you get it squared up, you get it running, you get it flat, you get it milling right, and then stuff starts to come off the mill. Where are you going to put it? That's the next thing. So we have this nice big area here. I don't want to start stacking stuff when my saw shop's going to go, or I'm never going to build it. Now we need a place to put the wood. And lucky for me, my wife, who's a very educated woman, is a planner, and I think I'm a planner, but she's a planner at a different level. And my first job right now is lumber bunks. And my first job on the mill is cutting stickers. And the stickers over there, and how we're going to pallet them and how we're going to move them around. And this is all on her because she's keeping me organized. You know, she's like, why did you throw that huge log up on the mill? What are you going to do with it? Well, I had some guys over here and we were like, oh, let's max this thing out, cut some slabs, see what it's like inside. She's like, we don't need to be doing that right now. What we need to be doing right now is cutting those. Because we need a place to put this stuff. You cut slabs off that, where are you going to put them? You know, we don't want to ruin them. You don't want to just set them down on the ground. Because if you set your stuff on the ground, it's going to look like my scrap pile over here. That's what it's going to end up looking like. It's going to look all bent and twisted, and I'll show you some more over here. Some of it's going to rot. You know, most of this stuff here, through a bunch of our projects, we had all pine barn board stuff stacked up over here, and through all the projects that we've been doing for the last 3 years during COVID, we've used it all on projects. So what's left over here is kind of like stuff that we just couldn't use for anything else, and it's kind of all going away now. You need a place to put it. You need a place to put it where it's going to stay fairly out of the elements and flat. And this used to be just a whole bunch of pallets and a whole bunch of wood stickered on it, and most of it's all gone. You know, we got flitches and offcuts over there, and believe it or not, we use that stuff. We've used it for beams or something that we needed for a project, or, you know, a funky sign going over an entrance to a outdoor shower or whatever. But we do use that stuff, and she won't let me get rid of it. I am going to have to start chipping it or cutting it up for firewood, though, because we're running out of space. So Kate built this. This is her idea. This is what she wants to put lumber on. It's big log bunks. She built this the other day while I was milling. She told me what she needed. I ripped it off, and she put this together. And she wants lumber bunks so that she can stack lumber on them, or we can stack lumber on them, and then they can still be moved. So this is a stomper pallet. Can't remember how long it is. I think that's 8 feet long. And she just put it together while I was milling the other day. And she wants to have these out to probably 12 feet long. One of the good parts about having something big and sturdy like this is that I don't need a perfectly flat concrete area to put all my wood down. That this will maintain its shape pretty well and stay pretty flat. So if you do put it down like in a place like this where it's not all perfectly leveled out, you know, your lumber's going to stay flat on there when it's stickered. And then you come over past these maple slabs and get a few more boards over here. There's the big slabs that I took off. in the mill the other day, and I just put them over here. You can see a bunch of beams that I milled for the saw shop about 4 years ago that are all sitting back there, all spruce beams, 16-foot long, 4x6, and those are all, I took a lot of time in getting that area flat when I put those in there and getting them perfectly supported, and they stayed really nice and straight, and they're out of the sun, which is key. In the summertime, this is all grown in and they're in the shade, so they stayed really nice and flat and perfect. So those are definitely going to go into the saw shop. But these things you all need to plan out, because I started getting logs in when people found out I got the mill, and now I'm setting them over here to keep them out of the front yard. And I don't want to add to the log pile because I want that to go away to make that space get bigger. But that's the next big battle. Where are you going to put everything? How are you going to keep it? You're going to have to put it on bunks. You're going to have to cover it with some sort of fabric. It's got to be flat. It's got to be stickered. Those are all important things. Especially if you think that you're going to turn it into a business. Now, if you're just milling for yourself, you still have to take those things into consideration, because even if you're going to mill for yourself, you got to keep your wood flat, straight, and dry, and so it'll be usable for you. If you think that, well, screw it, anything can be run through the planer, that's not really true. To a point, that's true. I'm a hand tool guy, so I can flatten pretty much anything with planes, but you don't want to have to. You want it to be good quality stuff, flat, straight, not really wavy. And that kind of goes over on into this. So where are we going to put it? We're going to figure that out. We're going to make flat spots. We're going to make lumber bunks, and we're going to have them movable, and so on and so forth. And then you start running this mill, and it leads to the next thing. Let me put this down for a second. I know it's pretty out this morning, so I want to move around, but kind of want to talk. Next thing is how are you going to keep it running? And I know that seems like a silly question, but it really depends on who you are. Hold on, grab a piece of wood. Hit some frozen water down here this morning. It's nice out, beautiful. Everybody's still sleeping, so I figured it's a good time to have a talk. How are you going to keep it running? Depends on your background. My background's in construction equipment, and when I was a kid, I used to put tractors together like this Bobcat, and we were a full-line construction equipment dealer, so hanging around in the shop as a kid. Diesel mechanic machine shop, machines would come in and I'd put them together. So I have a background in that. I fixed and made more hydraulic hoses in my life than most people will ever see. For customers, I power washed machines and greased machines and replaced dozer tracks and put lawn tractors together and so on and so forth. So the maintenance part's easy for me. And this was a challenging mill to put together. This is the Norwood HD36 V2. The first thing that most of you are going to go through, if you think you're just going to go out and you're going to grab a little Woodland Mills or something like that, or a lower end Norwood, and you're going to start running it, things are going to break. Blades are going to get dull. We got 16 blades with our mill. You get a 10-pack, a 5-pack, and a single blade that comes with it. And you're going to go through those fairly fast. We've been through 2 blades in 3 little well, really 2 little half days of milling the stickers. We milled a 10 by 10 beam was the first thing that we milled. These lumber bunks, the 2 slabs off of this, we've been through 2 blades. Now they're not destroyed, they're just dull. You have to start to push on the mill, starting to cut a little bit wavy. Not that bad. I mean, this is still pretty flat, but if you put an 8-foot level up on it, you can see the dips in it. It's just starting to get dull. This log was kind of dirty, and that went through a blade. There's also a big pitch inclusion in the crotch here behind me. That's hard as a rock, and that took a toll on the blade. So you need a how are you going to sharpen your blades? Well, that was another thing that I thought about on my side, and I came up with. I've got a bunch of chainsaw grinders, good ones, Oregons, and I adapted one over. A friend of mine actually sent me some blades from his wood miser in New Hampshire, and a grinder that he got with it that he doesn't use, and I adapted it over to grind bandsaw blades. And I did some tests on it and ground out the blades. He gave me a little setting tool with a dial indicator on it, and I set his bands and sharpened them and sent them back to him in New Hampshire. He'd build a big timber frame. They're still milling lumber. They've been milling lumber for years to finish it. It's all dried in now. I went up for the raising to help him out. 3 weeks living in a tent doing a timber frame was really neat experience this past summer. But I sent the blades back to him, wondering if I was on the right track. I am a professional sharpener. Everything from chef's knives to hand saws, planes, so on and so forth. I know the geometries. I have nice setups. But this was my first time at the bandsaw blades. And the geometry crosses over, so that's a simple part. I'm a professional in chainsaw chains, everything from rip chains to crosscut chains. Everybody sends me this stuff to sharpen for them. And I did up this one band for him. I sent it back and I said, I want you to run this and let me know what you think and let me know how it came out. And he got back to me and said he said, "I can't believe how silent it is. It doesn't sing like my new blades. It's just silent, and it goes right through and cuts nice and flat." So I want to make sure I wasn't overdoing it. I don't think I am. But I'm set up so that I can sharpen my own bands. You go through bands pretty quick. If you get a little 5-pack with your mill, you could destroy that 5-pack in 10 minutes hitting metal. And if you go at it really hard, you're going to go through those 5 blades, those 5 bands, terminology thing in my head. Those 5 bands, you're going to go through those 5 bands really fast, and you're going to be dead in the water. It's another thing you need to think about. You need to be able to sharpen them, or you're going to be sending them out and waiting, or you're going to be buying flat packs of bands at $25 a piece, and it's not going to be what you think. You're not just going to throw one band on this thing, and it's going to be like your little vertical bandsaw in the shop that your band stays on there for 5 years. It's going to be more like 3 or 4 hours, and that band's going to be done. And if you continue to cut with it while it's dull, which you can, it'll still go through wood. You're going to push like hell. You're going to wear out your machine. You're going to do damage to your machine. And you're going to cut crappy wood. So that's another thing you need to think about. You need to have a sharpening setup, or you're going to be buying bands, one of the two. And that these things add up. How are you going to keep this running? You're going to need tools. You're going to need grease guns. You're going to need, a little oil can. You're going to need to go washer fluid in the wintertime. You can run just water in the summer, but washer fluid, diesel, gasoline, those things add up quick. And the things you need to think about, because you're going to get home and you're going to get your little woodland mills in a box or whatever you decide to get. you're going to try to put it together, it's going to be a pain in the ass. If you get a big mill like this and you watch Dave Boyd, which is, I would suggest everybody watch Dave Boyd. You know, the guy's a guru. He's on the Norwood videos. If you search Norwood, you'll see Dave Boyd. And he does a series of videos on putting these together. You watch them and you think, oh, I could do that. It's a piece of cake. It's not a piece of cake. It's, you know, this is a big job. These rails alone are heavy, heavy, heavy things. You know, we have the ability, I can come in here with my machine right now, I can stick that saw head in the middle of the mill, throw my forks under the middle of this, pick it up and move it around. This weighs like 2,600, I think. 2,600 pounds. I can move this around the yard. For some of you, it's not going to be the case. You can put, you know, if you didn't watch my earlier videos about some of the issues we went through, and I got to do a full one on it, but you know, you probably should watch those about putting it together, because you need to think through everything. You know, if you think you got your little woodland mills in and you got a garage and, well, we're going to put it together in the garage, and you get it all together, well then what are you going to do? How are you going to move it? You need to think those things through. And I'm not saying that you're not capable of thinking those things through. I'm just saying you need to, because you're going to get it all together on the garage floor, and all of a sudden you're going to say, hey, you know, honey, grab the other end, or grab your son or your best friend and say, hey, grab the other end over some beers. We're going to move it, and it's not going to be easy. Then you got to get it out. You got to get it on a fairly flat spot. You got to get it set up. Now, some people are going to go to the nth degree, and they're going to go out there and they're going to pour some sonotubes. And yeah, I've seen umpteen people where I see where their mill is, and I say, what in God's name were you thinking when you put it there? You know, it's right next to the house, and it's blowing. Or they put it in the garage, and they're blowing they're blowing sawdust on their floor, and there's no place, you know, on the side where they can get around. I'm saying, how the hell are they going to get all that sawdust out of there? You come in the garage with a blower or snow shovel or something, you're going to push it outside, and then what are you going to do with it? Because you're going to end up with a pretty big pile pretty quick. Now, for us out here, it's easy because we got this 360 access around the mill. I can come around and spread the stuff. You know, it can only do us good out here in the muddy dirt for now, till I can get some dense grade in here and work on this grade a little bit. But it's another thing you need to think about. You know, my videos, I like to think that they're educational. The wife was asking me last week, you know, what do you want to be for, you know, what do you want your identity to be? And I said, you know, I don't know. I don't want an identity. I just want to help people. You know, my channel's not monetized, and just educational. So as you watch this, I hope it helps you think through some of the things that you know, you need to think about as you go forward. Now, you can wing it if you want. The problem with winging it, and we thought through a lot of this stuff, in our area right here is getting small really fast. You know, when I was taking those slabs off the mill the other day, and she was kind of mad at me because she was building her lumber bunks and being proactive and being smart. You know, she's saying, where are you going to put those? And I had to look around. We got all this space, and I had to look around, and I'm like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. Well, you can go through this whole thing just figuring it out, and maybe some of you, that's all you've ever done your whole life is figure it out. And if you go through it that way, it's going to be a constant battle, a constant dance. And you don't want it to be a constant dance. You want to work through these things. As much as I want to start milling, you know, 1x12s and 1x8s and 2x8s and 2x10s for this saw shop, I need to think through these things of where I'm going to put this stuff first. She's been the voice of reason for me and calming me down before I just start ripping through logs and end up with lumber sitting all over the place, you know, getting warped and split. And the good thing is, it's, you know, it's cold in this winter, so the sun's not very high in the sky. But if it was summertime and I was cutting these slabs, another thing to think about, if I was cutting these slabs that you can see here, and these beams and everything, and it's just sitting here in the summertime. The sun would whoop these things really fast. They'd be bending and twisting and cracking. If they were sitting out like this, you can't leave these sitting out like this in the summer sun. No way. They would be wasted. The stuff on top would be bent like pretzels. It'd be cracking. You know, this sticker pile right here, they'd be twisted and breaking in half and bending up. You know, that stuff can't sit out in the sun in the summer. In the wintertime, hear the ice cracking under my foot. In the summertime, in the wintertime, it's a different story. But in the summertime, it's something to think about. Now, we learned that lesson through when I was milling slabs and selling slabs. We learned that lesson fast. You know, you got to put your stuff in the shade or inside. It's got to be in the shade. It can't be sitting out in the sun. If it's out in the sun, it's got to be covered so the sun's not on it. It's got to have airflow through it. So you need to work on figuring those things out. I'm going to take the cover off the mill really quick. I don't want this video to run crazy long. All my videos kind of do, but I had 31 minutes on this one, so I'll probably talk a little. Instead of uncovering the mill, I'll do that in the next video when I'm cutting today. The next thing, you know, you're going to have to think about is, and hopefully you've thought about this beforehand, is what do you expect out of this? You know, this, my expectation for this is my retirement. My retirement is that I'm going to be a sawyer and work with lumber the rest of my life. Fix chainsaws, sharpen chains, port saws. Been porting saws for some time now. Most of the guys in my area bring me saws to fix and have them ported. And done a variety of different ones for guys that have come out great. Everybody always comes back and says the best saw I've ever run. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to port saws and sharpen chains and mill lumber, sell rough sawn pine. I don't really want to be in the slab business anymore because COVID killed the slab business. Slab business, when I was doing it before COVID, nobody else was doing it, and you could get good money for slabs. Now everybody and their brother and sister are cutting slabs, and the slab business has gone into the toilet. Everybody's giving everything away. There's not any real money in it unless you're cutting real high-end hardwood stuff and you're in a good area for that. But nobody in my area does the rough sawn pine, so that's kind of going to be my shtick, so to speak. Beams and barn board, lap siding, things like that. So that's what I'm going to concentrate on. Well, I need to set up my infrastructure to be able to support that. I think there's no doubt that down the road I'm going to end up with a commercial building. Leads me to another thing. I talk off the top of my head a lot, so I forget things sometimes. But how are you going to dry your lumber? You know, air drying can only go so far. You need the air drying component, but you need a way to dry it in a kiln too and sterilize it, kill the bugs and the critters and everything. Well, I'm going to put Virginia Tech style solar kiln right there where what's left of my firewood pile is. Because if you're looking out that way at my friend the Manillo's house in the background there, my friends, Rich Manillo, Sarah Swain, that is north. I'm standing behind the camera right now facing due south. And my solar kiln is going to sit right there on that hill with access so I can load it with the tractor. And it's going to face due south. So I have that area, got one big stump back there covered in ivy that you can't really see, that's sticking up above the wood, that's got to come out. And solar kiln's going to be right there. And it all sounds good when we say, well, this where I'm going to do this, and this where I'm going to do that, and this where I'm going to do this, and this where I'm going to do that. Those things need to be part of the plan. You need a plan. And if you're not good at planning, you need somebody that is. My wife is ridiculously, anally good at planning. So I'm going to lean on her for planning. Other than that, I would have to, just be writing stuff down on yellow line paper, just kind of how I've always done things myself, and then just gone through and lined it off one at a time. Need to get a grease gun. Need to get an oil can. Need to get some real levels. Or I'm lucky for me as a contractor, I have multiple 8-foot levels and 4-foot levels and 3-foot levels and 6-foot levels and 1-foot levels. In my truck, I've got 1-foot Stabilo levels in my center console. I've got levels coming out of my ears. I've got lasers, the whole 9 yards, and experience in building stuff and being able to get this thing dialed right in. Well, you're going to need those things too. Those things all add up. They all add up. You think, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy this. Oh, this mill's only going to cost me $3,500 bucks. I'm going to be home. I'm going to be milling lumber. It ain't going to be that way. It's not going to be $3,500. Just prepare yourself for that. As you go into this, if you watch this video, I'm going to title it, I think, so I want to get a sawmill, what do I do now? I think that's what I'm going to title this video. You need to think through all these things, because it's not just going to be that $3,500. I'll guarantee you that. There's going to be a lot more. You're going to start trying to roll logs on that mill, and you're going to say, oh, you're going to go out and I got to get a PV, and you're going to buy some cheap old PV off of eBay, and you're going to break it, and you're not going to be able to turn stuff. Then you're going to need another one, and then you're going to find out you want to get a good PV, and you're going to go out to your local steel dealer, and you're going to do the right thing. You're going to buy their big steel PV, which is awesome. I've turned 6,000 pound ash logs with my steel PV by myself with a chain around it, pulling it with my truck. That's the PV you need. You need to go to your steel dealer and buy the steel PV, the big orange one that's 2.5 inches around, metal with the big rubber handle on it. That's the PV that you need. And then you're going to get one of those, and you're going to think you're all set. You're going to try and turn this log on the mill right here, and you're not going to be able to turn it. You're going to say, well, I got friends. Yep, you get friends, and you're going to need to get another PV. And me and my son are going to be on this thing turning it. And you're going to decide that you need tools. You're going to go to put this together with a, like Dave Boyd with a, a ratchet, and you're going to go, shit, I need an impact gun. And you're going to have to go out and buy an impact gun. And then you're going to need a tractor, and you're going to have to go out and buy a tractor. You're going to find a cheap one on Facebook Marketplace. It's going to break down. You're going to blow a final drive, or you're going to have a injector pump shit itself or something, and you're going to say, I can't afford to fix this, and then you're going to get into a real one, and you're going to need tools to maintain that. So these are things that you need to think about. And I see so many young couples out there, and they get their mill and they're out there in the woods, and let's just say, to not be gender specific, let's say the woman's running the mill and the man's videoing. Be inclusive here. And the person behind the camera is going, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? How are we going to get that log up on there? I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. You want to figure it out beforehand. You want to think through all these things beforehand, as much as you can. And you're going to have a realistic budget. If you think you're going to get a sawmill and your budget's $5,000, you're going to have to think through that, because if your budget's $5,000, you better not buy a mill more than $3,500. I'll tell you that now. You better not, because you're going to need that other $1,500 in a hurry. if you want to mill anything. You know, you get a couple little logs, couple little birch logs in the woods in Maine, and you just want to mill those birch logs and make some cutting boards out of them. Yeah, maybe you'd be okay. You pick up both ends of the birch log and throw it on and mill it off, and you got a couple of nice walnut logs that somebody gave you, and you're gonna make some cutting boards and so on and so forth. That's great, but if you want to do any more than that, it's gonna add up quick, guys. So just having my coffee, chilling out on a Saturday morning. Birds are singing in the background. They can sense kind of spring coming. And I just want to do this talk and throw it up on there. I'm gonna do some milling later. Mill tomorrow too. Wife's got a friend coming into town, so she's gonna be running around all weekend. So I'm just gonna mill some more bunks and move some dirt today once we thaw out a little bit, and try and flatten off some more areas for wood. Keep moving forward and get ready to start putting sonotubes in for the saw shop here, and rather than just sitting here ripping off 1x6s all day, milling and milling and milling, not having any place to put them. So hope you guys are having a great weekend morning. Hit me up with comments. I answer everything back. Let me know if there's anything that you'd like to see, if there's anything that you want my opinion on as we go through. I am going to do a video on putting this mill together and all the things that we ran into and we're still running into, and things that we had to fix and so on and so forth. But I thought it was important to get this out. And oh man, my red-tailed hawks are back. They're hunting around. Got a family that lives over here, red-tailed hawks, and they're back. He just flew right by my head. But yeah, hit me up, like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think, anything you want to see different, or hit me up with questions, and I will answer them all back. Appreciate the watch, and hope you guys all have a great day. Stay safe out there, and don't be afraid to start. I know this this video might have a scary aspect to it. It's not scary, but it's hopefully what I say is going to help you think through some of these things beforehand, so that it's going to make it easier for you. And then you're going to start cutting wood and everything's going to be great. So have at it. Thanks for the watch. Have a great day.